feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank. When it sink or swim, only option is to win. In the murky water, not a thought of giving in. Welcome to the shrimp tank. Want to put it all together, this is big things. Doing big things. We ain't in the same league. Running a campaign, Roadie 2016. Like a phone to die, putting me in charge. I'm a general from the front, I'ma lead the charge. Like a federal, fell on my lap never. Going hard as ever.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another episode here on the Shrimp Tank, powered by Celsius Beverage. This is your first time tuning in. You catch all of our amazing episodes up on our website, shrimptankpodcast.com. This is the podcast where we collaborate with the Florida Atlantic University, finding the do's and don'ts of running a business, where street smarts and book smarts collide. We're the first podcast in the world that has an entire class of entrepreneurship students that sit in during the show, come up and ask live questions to our guests, and we're doing some phenomenal things. Today, I'm joined by a special co-host, the professor of the class of students sitting in. Tess, welcome to the Shrimp Tank.
Thank you so much. I'm technically not a professor yet,
Okay.
but I do appreciate it.
Close enough, though.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you are in charge of all these students, right?
Yes, that's true. So I'm the instructor of this entrepreneurship course. I'm a third-year PhD candidate in the management and entrepreneurship program here at Florida Atlantic University. And yeah, you're one day only co-host, replacing Kevin while he's out doing scholarly things.
Oh, he didn't force you to wear a cool-looking hat today? What happened?
No, although I considered it, I think these would fit me better if I had a hat on.
Yes. So before we dive into our guests today, why don't you share what unique things are going on at FAU?
Absolutely. Yeah. So Kevin is in charge of the Adams Center for Entrepreneurship and always involved in a whole bunch of activities, both on campus and also integrating with the wider entrepreneurial community in Southeast Florida. So this Sunday, October 26th, the Big Blue Ocean Economy event hosted by Ocean Exchange. This is the collegiate track that starts on Sunday, and then there'll be two more tracks the following 2 days. So that's an exciting event. Lots of innovators showcasing their sustainability solutions, and there will be, I believe it's 300,000 in total awarded to the top three pitches of those entrepreneurs. So really exciting, whether you're an entrepreneur or just interested in sustainability. And then November 4th, there will be a entrepreneurial education event held at the Jupiter campus. That's at 5:30 p.m. And that is open to the public. So really exciting opportunity there. And then stay tuned for the Entrepreneurship Through Acquisition program. That's something that Kevin's working on, and I believe he's presenting on that actually right now. Really exciting opportunity to learn about alternative approaches to starting a venture. So yeah, lots of exciting stuff going on.
That is exciting. And our guest today is actually going to piggyback a lot of what Kevin's speaking about growing a business, scaling a business, and purchasing a business. Of course, today we have Holly Rush joining us in the studio. Holly, what we'd like you to do is do a 60-second pitch. So often students meet other successful entrepreneurs and they have just 60 seconds to make an impression, and so valuable to do it the correct way. So you got 60 seconds. Tell our students a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. No pressure, right? 60 seconds. Pull in 30 years of experience into 60 seconds.
Hey,
Not a problem at all.
We have the rest of the show to do the rest, of course.
Well, it's great to be here with you guys today and to talk about something near and dear to my heart. My path might look a little different than some of the other guests on the show. I have 30 years of operating experience building brands in omni-channel environments and design for growth. And that's really my background. I've worked large companies like Luxottica and L'Oreal and small startups across a whole number of different consumer sectors like beauty, fashion, lifestyle brands. Joined Costa del Mar, the sunglass company based here in Florida, in 2016 as CEO, and had a great opportunity and run there, really taking a small niche business and transforming it into a global brand. Really exciting opportunity and very sustainably minded. I can relate to that. And then in 2020, forged out on my own, set up my own advisory and consulting business where I support other business founders and CEOs as they're growing their businesses. And I also work with private equity as an operating executive, buying and selling companies.
That was pretty good, Holly. I got to give you kudos for that.
How many seconds? Did I fit within the 60
we could
second
go back
time?
and rewatch the episode, but I think you're right around 60
Okay,
seconds.
cool.
And that's very hard, to get that much information in 60 seconds when you've accomplished so much.
This is my second Celsius, so
And
that might have
Celsius
something to do with it.
does push people to kind of ramble really
Stay
quickly.
on point.
And I drank one earlier, so I'm probably going to be rambling a lot during today's episode. Okay, like we always do, we play a game show the first 10 minutes of the show. So we're going to ask one of the students to come tell us the game rules, and then we're going to introduce our student contestant, of course.
Hello, my name is Felipe. I'm from Brazil. I'm going to be hosting the show today, the game show. So the first question is, what is the median first-year failure rate for startups in the U.S.? Option.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, she doesn't even need that.
Are you going to do
She has to
it?
answer. She
You
doesn't
have
need
to
the
answer now.
options.
First year, 25% failure rate?
Close.
Close. Okay. I didn't
Close.
get it. So
Anyone
now you
else wanna
guys
try?
get to hear the ABCD.
Well, I'm gonna wait for A, B, C, and D.
Okay. Option A, 60%. Option B, 40%. Option C, 20%. And option D, 50%.
I'm Ryan, by the way. I didn't get to introduce myself, but I think it's 20%.
Yeah, it is 20%.
Ryan, look at this.
Okay, question 2 is, what is the average small business loan amount in currency approved by banks in the U.S.? Option A, 75,000. Option B, 100,000. Option C, 150,000. And option D, 20,000.
C.
That is incorrect.
I'm going with D, 20,000.
D, that is also incorrect.
Correct.
Is it option B?
Yes, it is option B, 100,000. So the next question is, what is the average effectiveness in clickbait ads for businesses on social media? Option A, 10%. Option B, 90%. Option C, 30%. And option D, 1%.
I'm going to go with D, 1%.
Yes, that is correct. Next question is, what is the average time it takes for a new business to become profitable? Option A, 2 to 3 years. Option B, 4 to 5 years. Option C, 6 to 7 years. And option D, 10 plus years.
A.
Yes, it is A.
Okay. Well, I think we're all tied. Okay.
In 2025, which startups are the most profitable and successful? A, fitness and wellness. B, graphic design. C, AI technology.
C.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have a score, guys? Jason? Yeah.
It's over. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all we
I
got.
mean, I have
Good
one more
job,
question if you
Jason.
guys want
Yeah.
to. Okay.
Is this a
Just in case
tiebreaker?
we get
You
into
want
a tiebreaker. I want
Okay.
to see what happens.
In 2025, how many companies use AI daily? Option A, 61%. Option B, 49%. Option C, 95%. And option D, 73%.
I'm going to say 73% D.
That is correct.
Okay, now we have to go to a tiebreaker,
yeah, now you
right?
guys
Yeah.
are in it.
I like this.
Well, just give me a second. I have to search up a tiebreaker question.
While he's doing a tiebreaker, Ryan, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Ryan Wadich. I'm a research fellow here at FAU in the College of Engineering and Computer Science. And I'm a builder, and I'm passionate about entrepreneurship.
Nice. And what have you learned through the shrimp tank so far?
I've learned that hard work is what really makes success, right? Something I've seen
Yes.
across all of the entrepreneurs that have came on the show is that regardless of who it was, whatever industry they were in, everyone really put in the hard work, right? And they took the risks. So I think that's like the great essence of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I think looking back to our first guest on episode, on this season, episode 1, was Michael Block. And he said, if I could do it, anyone could do it, right? And his point was really that it just takes hard work, day in and day out, waking up early and putting in time, where too often entrepreneurs jump to the next thing and try to cut corners, right? And often that doesn't work out for most folks. Okay, we got a tiebreaker question,
we
I
do.
think.
Okay, for tiebreaker, what percentage of startups are founded by solo entrepreneurs with no co-founders? A, 10%, B, 25%, C, 35%, and D, 45%.
D, 45%.
Yes, that is correct.
Nice job, Jason.
Sorry, Ryan.
Well
Clear
done.
winner.
I had to take you down in the tiebreaker. Thank you for joining us on the show, and thank you
yeah.
for putting on a great game show. Okay, Holly, on this segment of the show, it's all to learn about your entrepreneurial journey. So let's go back to the early days. Where'd you go to college? When you graduated, what did you do in the workforce, and kind of how did you get to where you are today?
Okay, so like I said earlier, my journey might be a little bit different than some of the founders that you've heard speak here on the show. I took a little bit more of a traditional path in
Okay.
business early on. So I grew up in New Jersey, went to college at West Virginia University on a full ride D1 scholarship for swimming, graduated with a marketing degree, and a few of the summers in between, like sophomore and junior, senior in college, did they weren't called internships back in the day, but some summer jobs, if you will, to dip my toe in the water. The first one was more of like a data entry, sort of just basic 9 to 5 office job, and I swore that off immediately. Said I would never work in a cubicle or a 9 to 5 job, and anything that required spreadsheets was like out of the question. And then my second summer, the time between junior and senior year, I actually took a job in retail, and that might sound really boring or just maybe like something that you wouldn't want to try. But for me, it was really eye-opening. The opportunity to sort of set your own goals, work towards a specific achievement, if you will, whether it was setting a sales target or whatever it might be, and really excelled in that. I loved it. I worked in a brand new Macy's store, made tons of money that summer, way more than any of my friends did. And I thought to myself, like, there's something here, something that really resonates for me. And I think it tied back to being a competitive athlete too, because you're sort of like, when you're a swimmer, you're in the pool on your own and it's you and the clock. And I felt the same way about being in sales. So had some great advice from a mentor as I was graduating college, talked to me about professional selling, which I know is now actually a college degree that you could get. Wasn't for me, but it was a fascinating career opportunity to take the retail experience and sort of take it into the corporate world. He happened to be an executive VP at a big pharma company and the head of sales, and he just had a really kick-ass job. And I just thought, like, that sounds like something I'd really like to do. And that really began my professional selling experience. It was something I did for the better part of the first 10, 12 years of my career. And I started out in consumer packaged goods, which again, back in the day and still today is just a really foundational and fundamental way to cut your teeth in business. Great learning experience. And then grew from there. So happy to fill in the blanks along the way, but I know that's what the show's about. So keep asking me questions, right?
Keep going.
Keep going.
Keep going.
Okay.
I want to see you to where you are today.
So I have more than 60 seconds this time. I think that's the moral of the story. So first 10 years, I worked for a company called Duracell, which ultimately became part of Gillette. Everyone knows Gillette, the shaving company, and make a lot of other great products. And spent those first 10 years in a new job every year. So it was a really exciting growth period for me. Got promoted every year in those first 10 years, became a sales manager, ran key accounts, and ultimately became the youngest national account manager.
Can we take a pause there? How do you have a new job every year? Because so often people go into the corporate world and they're stuck in their position for 3 years, 7 years, and they just can't move forward.
Well, I mean, part of it is choosing well in your first career choice out of school. I mean, it took me a while to find where I wanted to go to work. Quite honestly, I interviewed a lot. I probably interviewed with 30 or 40 different companies before I made the choice to join Duracell. And one of the things I loved about it was that they had sort of a management development program, right? So I knew I could go in there and get really good experience. I could learn. There were great leaders and mentors there, and the company was growing. So there was just a lot of opportunity to continue to
But did you put yourself out there to just ask for those different positions, or did they just come naturally to you because you were achieving your different milestones and goals?
Probably a little bit more the latter than the former. But what I would tell you too is that through that first mentoring conversation that I had about a career in sales, I decided in that moment when I was being mentored by that person that I wanted to be a VP of sales by the time I was 40. He was 45. And I'm like, I'm going to do it sooner. That's the job for me. And I actually did it by the time I was 32. And so just having that goal too, I think really just motivated me in every step along the way to be the best I could at whatever job it was.
Yeah, 32 VP of sales is
well, today it's not that big of a deal. I mean, I feel like I meet folks who are 25 years old and CEOs, and
but what does that mean, VP of sales? Like, define it a little further. Is it, you had 100 people under you, 1,000 people under you? Because VP can mean a lot of different things.
Sure, it can. Yeah.
And same with a lot of titles today, right? It's really hard to understand what that really, means, of course.
Yeah, so I'll just fill in the blanks a little bit. I left Duracell after about 10 years. I was running one of the largest national accounts for them. It was Target. So I moved to Minneapolis and ran the Target business for them. Was having a blast, but it was also early 2000s, and it was the world and the time of startups.
Okay.
So I went and did a startup for a couple of years. The handwriting was on the wall there, and it was just time to go back to something a little bit more stable after 2 years. And that's when I joined L'Oreal. And when I went to L'Oreal in the beauty business is when I got my first VP of sales job. And that was a smaller division. I had about 25 sales reps reporting to me, about a $30 million business. It was a small brand within a larger company, which was really nice too. Entrepreneurial, but with the safety net
Yes.
of a larger company. And then over my 10 years or so with L'Oreal, every couple of years, I had a new VP sales assignment for a bigger division.
And then where are you today? Kind of give us the sunglass brand and kind of.
Yeah, so I left L'Oreal in around 2010 and joined the eyewear business for the largest eyewear manufacturer in the world called Luxottica. So how many people here know about Ray-Ban, right? Ray-Ban, Oakley, all of those amazing brands, and had the opportunity there to join as an SVP of sales. So there I had 400 people and about a $500 million business at this point, and oversaw roughly 30 brands in their portfolio. Really complex, challenging position, lots of fun. Stayed with Luxottica for about 5 years. This is all in eyewear, and ultimately became the president of the wholesale division. I was the first woman, first American ever to hold that role. So that was a big moment for me career-wise. And then I left there and became the CEO of Costa del Mar. So I stayed in the eyewear business, but more on the lifestyle sunglass side of the equation, which is very different than what we consider like the optical industry, where you go visit with an eye doctor, get an eye exam, and then get a pair of prescription glasses. So sunglasses are more of a lifestyle or fashion purchase, right? We wear them whether or not we need prescription glasses. So there's a lot of different dynamics to it. And Costa was really a dream job.
That is absolutely awesome. And kind of explain some other verticals you're up to now, right? You're doing that, but what else?
Yeah, so wrapped up at Costa right before COVID. The company actually was acquired and merged with a larger entity, and the business that was based in Daytona Beach, Florida, that I came here for, ended up being dismantled and moved to other parts of the world. So there is no longer Costa del Mar, unfortunately, headquartered in the great state of Florida. So I made the choice at that point to do something on my own, to really, truly entrepreneurial for me. First time I struck out on my own and set up my own advising and consulting business to work with CEOs and founders who were growing and scaling their own omni-channel brands, where I felt like I could bring 30 years of my experience having done it and then help them really accelerate their growth trajectory. So started doing that right around COVID. Also trained to be an executive coach during that time, which is a passion of mine. I love training and mentoring and developing people. And so I took some time during COVID to do that work and add that to my consulting business. And then I joined forces with a private equity firm in 2022. And we're building an eyewear portfolio, a platform brand within their investments. So really fun, something totally different and new.
Yes. Tess, this is pretty interesting, right?
Yeah, it is. I'm really excited that your journey, you see how it is grounded in that early sales experience. It's something we really emphasize when we teach entrepreneurship, that so much of the work is just getting out there and talking to people and building a network that allows you to assemble resources. I'm curious if you could talk a little bit about some lessons you learned in the sales position that you then applied in the following leadership positions that you were involved in.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I've always thought that sales is really not selling. It's a business of people. And if you take the time to really listen to what, a business partner, a colleague, or someone who's sitting across the desk from you needs in that sort of interaction, then technically they call it selling, right? But it's really creating what you refer to as like a win-win situation. It's what do I have that can solve a problem that you're facing or improve the business that you're doing today? So I always really looked at it as just building relationships more so than anything. everything. And I am really a closet introvert. I mean, believe it or not, I am naturally introverted, but I love building relationships with people. And I think that's what sales always taught me how to do. And it felt very natural. If you think about it, less like I have to sell something and more I get to solve a problem for someone and build a relationship, it's a lot less intimidating, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's very cool to see your skills stack up with each role that you've been in. I kind of want to flip that on its head though. So when you did venture out and start your own, completely on your own entrepreneurial venture, were there any surprises or lessons you had to learn that were different from your past experiences connected to larger existing firms?
Yeah, it's really hard. Being an entrepreneur or a solopreneur, I think they call it too. It's hard. It's hard to, obviously go at something without the safety net of a bigger organization or an investment firm or whatever it might be. There's a lot of business development, which is, sort of, yes, you can tap into your network to build, in the case of what I was doing, consulting engagements and projects. But at a certain point, you're out there really hustling on your own, right? So there's an aspect of it where, to your point, Tess, my career felt very additive over time. I was building one step on the next. And this was the first time I felt like I jumped off of, the ladder, so to speak, and did something totally different. And it really did feel like, wow, okay, I'm in this on my own. I've got to really hustle, develop the business on my own. And that's a different feeling. So it can be exhilarating too at the same time, but sometimes it's scary.
So to piggyback that, was it harder? Because not many people have done this, to go from a brand that has, let's say, 100 million of revenue to 200 million of revenue, or literally 0 to 100,000. Obviously, those numbers are all, but based on your situation, because you really did both, right? So
the question is really more about scaling business.
Was it hard to go from 0 to 100,000 being a solo entrepreneur? Is what I'm saying, to really show everybody in the audience like how hard it is sometimes to get a business off the ground versus a business that is already established and just doubling it, 2xing it.
So I think every person you ask might have a different answer. So I consider myself to be an optimizer, right? I'm a business builder. I'm a transformer. Think it's really important to know what you're good at. That's what I'm good at. And what that means for me is that I can look at an existing business and tell you pretty quickly in short order, what are the 2 or 3 things that you can do to really optimize the business that exists today. And a lot of people are sort of visionary, or they're startup minded, or they're really entrepreneurial. They can see the opportunity and they're willing to dig in early on. So for me, it was harder to do the 0 to 100.
That's why I asked that. Because so often we see people jump to become an entrepreneur and they create a startup, especially in the tech field, and it's brutal for them, right? They really struggle because of the relationship side. So often they're like, okay, I'm going to build it, and people will come in, and it's more relationship driven, where you have to set up coffee meetings, you have to set up dinners, and just get people to sit down with you. And a lot of professional service businesses are like that. Think about lawyers, accountants, financial advisors. Often they have the highest failure rates because the hardest thing is just getting a meeting in your schedule. So often with people that jump ship like you did and start, they're like, okay, I have all these skills, but people aren't willing to listen. So kind of explain how did you get going in that process? Just getting people to listen, because a lot of people become executive coaches if they have an exit, and that's the hardest thing, just to set up meetings. So can you kind of share that side of the process?
Yeah. So in my consulting and advising work, I play to my strengths, right? So I really focus on helping business leaders scale their brands in the consumer environments that I have the most experience in. I tend not to go well beyond that, because I feel like, I'm better served. I can leverage my strengths in the area that I know. The executive coaching for me was about how to enhance that practice of consulting and advising, and really helping business leaders be the best leaders they could be too as they're running their businesses. Because I found that a lot of entrepreneurs that are very successful. So in some cases, they started their journeys very young. Maybe they didn't work in bigger companies. They didn't have the opportunity to learn from mentors or leaders in a corporate environment what good leadership looks like. So it's really helpful to have that in my tool belt and to be able to bring that to a coaching engagement or a consulting engagement. So those two things really work hand in hand, but it's really playing to my network and my strengths. I think those are the two things.
A niche. You
exactly.
knew which businesses that you could step in and immediately support that founder and help them scale their company with systems.
Exactly. And I know this about myself, that I'm going to be a better resource for a company that's already past that kind of early stage of startup, right? So that is not my experience is not in startup. My experience is really on taking a business that has had a couple of years behind it, and maybe it's 5 years in, maybe it's $10 million, maybe it's $20 million, and they're really looking to go to that next level. And there's just an old adage of what's gotten you here doesn't get you to the next level, right? So what got you to $1 million or 10 million is not what gets you to 50 million. And so that's really where I find that my experience really plays.
Can you just dive deeper then? Because we see so much fluff around that question. Often people say, oh, I'm good at marketing. I'm good at social media. We hire a brand spokesperson. But can you speak to some of the systems that have to be put in place to really get you from 10 million to 50 million as an example?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd like to go back to just basic business principles, right? So in order to run a successful business, you need, really kind of 3 strategies. You need a business strategy. What do you do? How do you do it? Who do you serve? What markets? What customers? It's really just about like, what business are you in, right? And how do you go about, capitalizing on that market? The second is, what's your financial strategy? That sounds like a big thing to say, but really a lot of small and mid-sized businesses don't have basic financial reporting in places. And so a lot of times if I go in and I'm the first person to advise that CEO, a lot of times what I'm doing is developing basic reporting. I'm recommending either a financial outsourcing or even bringing in a finance person to actually help sit alongside the CEO so that they can make better decisions, because cash and capital is king when you're running a business. You have to know your finances. So that's number 2. Okay. And then the third area that I'll focus on is talent and people. So that is, it's really hard to build a business on your own. You got to be surrounded by great people. And not only talent, but people who, believe in your vision and what you're building and are willing to run fast with you towards that end game. So those are really the 3 main areas that I'll look at.
Something the third one is very difficult for a lot of entrepreneurs. They could grow. They know the other 2, but just like the talent, it's just like they try to hire folks and they really
friends
struggle.
And family.
Yeah, friends and family. And then they don't have those leadership skills, of course, to kind of break through, right? They put quotes on the wall, but sometimes it's the little touches, as you know. It's like when people walk into the office, it's greeting them. It's the little gifts. So can you speak to the third point a tad more? Like, how are you that leader that people want to show up on a regular basis and really keep people motivated and hitting their goals, not shifting brands to get a higher salary, as an example?
Right. Yeah. So I think you hit on a couple of things. It's first of which is, as the founder or the entrepreneur behind the business, it's helping them navigate what's needed as the organization grows, right? Because when you're in startup mode, you might have 3 or 4 people sitting around a table getting things done together. And then you blink and you've got a great idea and your business is, call it 25 million, and you've got 50 people in the company. And that's a very different situation, managing a few people really well, maybe they are friends and family, versus hiring and firing and building teams and setting structure. So just helping to navigate, how to set number 1, just to share your vision, how to set, priorities for the company, how to motivate and manage teams that can be all new for someone who is truly an entrepreneur. So that's a big area of focus. And also, I've also found with entrepreneurs is that they have really big ideas, and sometimes as the organizations get bigger, the people that work there sometimes can't keep up, right? The entrepreneur is a lot of times so far out in front, sharing their vision, moving on to what's next, moving fast towards whatever their goal is. And the company's like, hey, we're over here. What do you need from us? So bridging that gap is really, really important. And that's also really about getting the right people in the right seats. So depending on the type of business you are, I'll take a look organizationally at what's in place, what's needed to achieve growth and get to the next level, and say, hey, you need to bring somebody in-house in finance, or you need a digital marketing person, or let's go, hire a business development person to grow the sales force, or whatever it might be.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so this next segment of the show is where students get to come up and ask you questions. So if you're sitting in the audience right now and you have a question for Holly, come on up and ask her anything that's on your mind. While waiting for some students to come up, Tess, you have any follow-up questions?
Yep, I do. And it's actually one that the students will turn in a summary report to me after each podcast with things that they were happy to hear or things they wish they'd heard about. And the number one thing that they want to hear about are failures or surprises. So I just want to start off there. What were some moments in your career when maybe you doubted yourself, or you weren't sure that you were moving in the right direction, and how have you dealt with that?
Yeah, well, we just touched on the sort of challenges of business development as an entrepreneur, right? So I would put that right up there. The other experience I've had is staying in one place for too long, right? And so there have been times, there's one in particular that I can think of, where I was with a particular company for an extended period of time, and I had growth, but I was feeling like my skills and what I valued in my career experience really weren't what they valued. And as a result, I saw a lot of people like moving past me really quickly, getting the plum jobs, getting selected for key projects. I'm like, well, wait a second, what about me? I'm taking the tough assignments, I'm delivering the results. And sometimes I think you just need to step back and as difficult as that was, say, am I in the right place? And then find the courage to move on if you're not, right? So I felt like I had tried everything I could to be recognized and acknowledged and all of that. And I was really frustrated. I mean, I probably stayed 3 or 4 years longer than I should have. And it wasn't until I left and I got myself back in a situation where what I did was valuable to that company, and that I felt like things were moving again in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great advice. I think a lot of people find themselves in that scenario and start doubting themselves, but you had the wherewithal to notice, I have a lot to give.
Well, I had a really good friend of mine who said, you've been complaining about this for the last 2 years, and I don't want to hear it again until you're ready to make a change. No joke. And so that's the kind of thing too, I would say, really underlining, we haven't talked about it much today, but really make sure you've got the right people at your table, giving you advice, giving it to you straight, challenging you, helping you think about things differently. That comment, I remember exactly where I was. I remember when she said it to me, and I was pissed. I was like, you can't say that to me. And I realized, I was like, she's right. I've been talking about this for 2+ years, and I'm the only one that can make a change, right? If I've done everything in my power to change my situation where I am, it's time to move on. So sometimes you need those people around you, right?
You do, but in the moment it's hard because you're taking it so personal. And like, how could they say that? Right? I don't want to be friends with them anymore. So I know it wasn't
We're
as
still
easy
friends,
as it sounds.
So I forgave her.
But now you're like, you look back, it was right.
Yeah,
and even old bosses that were right?
Absolutely.
We all have those experiences where like you were mad at that boss, but then looking back, they were kind of right.
Yeah.
Okay, come on down.
My name is Sebastian Marcus. I work in the firearms industry, and I just want to know, because I am working in a retail environment where I've been pretty good. I'm a decent salesman. I've made about maybe $300 in commission alone in the past pay period, which was in the last 2 weeks. I just want to know if you have any tips on how to climb the corporate ladders a little bit quicker in the retail situation where you feel like you're doing the best that you can. You're working with the managers really well. You're working with the business pretty well. And you just feel like you're, need to be somewhere else.
That's a great question. I can't relate to the firearms part of the retail business, but retail in general, I think you want to get yourself in a good company, right? So, like the experience that I shared with you guys earlier was with a very big, it happened to be a department store, right? It's Macy's. And they had a management program and they had management positions, they had buying and training programs. So, for me, it was a benefit to be in a larger organization where I could see that there were opportunities to advance. So I would think about that of, being in a situation where you can see that there's growth and there's a track to follow, and then just be the best at what you do. If you're passionate about it and you go in every day and you love to serve your customers and you post great numbers, you're going to get recognized. So that was I guess what I would suggest.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Good luck.
I like the track part because my first company I started with was ADT Security, which happens to be located in Boca up in New York, and it had no future. It was a dead end sales job that I could make 50 to 120,000, but nothing more. So I then became a financial advisor because I saw the track. I said, something, I can make millions of dollars doing the same exact sales position and helping people with their finances. So same thing. It's just knowing that skill set is there and then it could be applied somewhere else.
I would just add 2 cents to that response that's more directly to the undergraduate students in the room, which is something I learned the hard way. When you're interviewing for your first job out of college, it feels like you're desperate to get a job. But I just want to say that when you're interviewing, it feels for sure you're the person being interviewed, but it's also an opportunity for you to interview them about the company. So ask those questions about what are the pathways to move forward? Who were the last people on the team who got promoted? Where did they go? Why were they promoted? What type of performance makes you eligible for promotion? If they don't have responses to those questions, it doesn't really matter how much they're offering you. You know that there isn't a path for you, right? There isn't a trajectory. So I would encourage you to know your worth and interview them right back. It also looks really good when you're doing that type of research, but it is your opportunity to, it's an important decision. So that would just be my two cents of advice for paying attention to those.
It's great advice. And I'll just go back to what I was sharing in my early days too. When I decided I wanted to be in sales, there was no LinkedIn or, different online tools. It was like a newspaper and who you knew. That's kind of what it was. And it sounds really old school, but I literally went on hundreds of interviews, probably 30 companies, but like every company had multiple interviews and then a bunch of job fairs too. And it was so clear, to your point, that it was really important to make a good choice, right? There were a lot of jobs out there, especially in sales. You could be a 100% commission rep. Well, who's taking the risk there? You are, right? So I was like, I don't want that. I want to be somewhere where I know that there's a path, there's going to be some training and support, and there's really great people I can learn from. So also, I'll just tag on to what you were saying is that make sure the people you're meeting, if you are interviewing, are people that you respect, you admire, and you feel like you can learn from, because it's such a fundamental time in the beginning of your career.
Hi, my name is Brandon.
Hi.
I'm just curious what it's been like as you've grown through your and advanced in these roles, the different personality clashes you may have had, and how you motivate underperforming people or cut them loose.
Wow. Okay. So I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. I mean, business is about people, right? So, and not easy because you get, people from everywhere, different diversity backgrounds, different schools of thought. And ultimately you have to move in a direction of achieving goals together, right? So the biggest part of leadership that you learn is that you might not always agree with everybody, but you have to agree on where you're going and how you're going to get there, right? So it's bringing people along in that process. So big part of leadership, I think, is not just being smart or IQ, it's EQ as well. It's understanding people and how to get things done through other people, to motivate them, to help them join your mission, whatever that might be. So just bringing people along is a skill, a highly, highly important skill as a leader and as someone who's like trying to move people in a certain direction. In terms of maximizing performance or having to move people along, that's the toughest part of any job. I'm a big believer of hiring slow and firing fast, but that sounds really crass. It comes from learning that if you've given people every opportunity and the support and the training and the clarity on what you need them to do, then you're not doing anybody any any justice by keeping them in a job that they're not performing well on. And a lot of times it's, what I found too is that it's a great person in the wrong job. Right. So fit is really, really important. So people find themselves in positions that they're like, I'm not even qualified for this. I don't like my job. I don't have the skills required. And they fail as a result of that. And it's better for them sometimes to move on and find something they're really passionate and good at than staying in a job where they don't feel like they're making a difference. So helping people get to a point where they understand that maybe it's just not a good match, but always doing it with a people first mindset, because you have to have empathy as well.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Brandon.
Hi, Miss Rush.
Hi.
My name's Ariana, and I wanted to know, you stress on people first in your question, and in this day and age of technology, I was wondering how you keep the people first relationship while going on social media.
Oh, anybody have the answer to that, right?
It's getting harder.
Yeah,
right, with social
it really is. So, I mean, one thing I try and do is make sure that, like, once a week, I reach out to someone I haven't talked to or connected with for a while, just to sort of maintain the relationship, because you can text, you can, ping each other on social, but at the end of the day, it's the human connection that really matters. And, also, I think at the end of the day, real relationships exist one-on-one. They don't exist through a device of some sort. You're not creating meaningful connection that way. So taking the time to really build relationships with people outside of devices is so important. And I think it's so important, especially as you start your careers, to, like I said, to find people you can learn from, you can ask questions to, who can open doors for you. And that's really hard to do over social media.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you.
And I'll piggyback that. I meet so many influencers that have millions of followers and they don't have those relationships. And lots of times people think by partnering with these big influencers that they have these relationships, and they often do not. So people that have actually smaller followings that have the true relationships, because most of their time spent, grabbing a cup of coffee, right? Grabbing lunch, grabbing dinner. And those folks always will accept that individual's text message and then do something for them where the relationship actually matters versus social media metrics often. Now, some people do, right? Some people have very large followings, but often it's misled, of course.
Hi, so my question was kind of in relation to entrepreneurship by acquisition and how it's related to private equity, right? They're kind of two sides of the same coin, but there's a lot of ridges on a coin and a lot of intricacies that are involved with that. So I was wondering if you can speak to some of the hard skills that are involved on both sides of that, and then like what are specific to each and how they're related.
Okay, I want to make sure I understand your question. So you're asking about the acquiring side, like buying and selling companies, right? And what skills are required to do that?
Because you've like personally been involved with like entrepreneurship through acquisition, but then also like involved on the private equity side. So I was just wondering if you can speak to like both sides of it and some of the hard skills, like personally, you think would be really good for that.
Yeah, I think it's going to go back to some of those strategies that I talked about before. Is if you're an entrepreneur and you're talking to private equity, for example, it's really knowing your business and knowing what the opportunities are and being able to express the value in that, real tangible value. So yeah, you can have a great idea, but on the private equity side, they want to understand what value creation there is, right? How are you growing the revenue? How are you improving profitability? How are you setting yourselves up for maybe the next transaction? So I think those skills are important on both sides, right? As an entrepreneur, you need to know your business inside and out, know where you're going, how you're going to get there, the type of investment that you need in order to, maximize the potential of your business. And those are the same kinds of conversations that people in private equity are having every day, is where can we make this investment to get the greatest return? And as an entrepreneur, you want to be able to show, hey, it's my business, that can be me.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
Great questions. Okay, Holly. Fortunately, the show has to come to a conclusion. Can you tell everybody where they can find you? They want to reach out. They want to, maybe there's a student in the crowd that, you're their mentor, right? They are always looking for guidance from others, of course, but also this is streamed online. People want to reach out to you. What are the best routes?
Well, I think OWL is going to be
yes.
one, right?
You
Am I
love
making a plug?
relationships, so of
I'm gonna make a
course
plug for
you
Owl
can.
and LinkedIn, right? So every single person that comes up here and speaks to you guys on this podcast or in Michael's Success in the Business World class,
Yes.
if something they said resonated for you, go on LinkedIn, send them a request. Very rarely will people not accept the request. If you have a question, ask them a question through Messenger. I get that all the time. I love it. To me, it's engagement, it's building relationships, it's giving back. So I'd highly recommend, whatever your social media or your professional networking tool is really leverage it and don't hesitate to reach out. I mean, people that have experience in careers or are at a certain stage in life, it's really all about giving back and helping next generation of young leaders be successful. So we want to give you that advice if you want it.
Yes, I always think that when you ask sincerely,
Mhm.
people typically want to get back, right? It's when you come and solicit that they
Mhm.
don't, right? When your LinkedIn message says, "Hey, love to connect with you, Holly," and also maybe you can invest in my company, like too quick, right? But if it's like, "Hey, I listened to the podcast,
Mhm.
I really, understood what you were talking about. That's me, where I was at this job for too long. I would love to just pick your brain on X, Y, or Z."
Absolutely.
You're more
All
inclined
day
to
long.
say yes
Mhm.
all day long.
Mhm.
Tess, any final words?
I just want to say thank you. It's been really fun to hear about your experience. Like I said, it's a fascinating trajectory. The way that you've stacked your skills and then continue to take leaps as well. I mean, you've been in plenty of positions that you could have sat in, for the rest of your career, and instead you're out seeking new opportunities, new positions, and new ways to give back. So just thank you. This is really awesome.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back next Wednesday, right approximately at 1 p.m. Take care, everybody.